tarda. Doncs comencem aquesta taula rodona agraint a les nostres convidades i als nostres convidats que siguin aquí. Estem una mica en família, però també us vull dir que aquesta sessió serà gravada, estarà en els arxius de YouTube de l'associació i serà vist repetidament per molts de socis i sòcies les properes setmanes. Moltes gràcies a les nostres convidades i convidats per venir aquí. Engeguem aquesta taula rodona sobre aspectes a tenir en compte en la internacionalització en il·lustració en el sector editorial. I abans de tot us faig una petita presentació de les persones que ens acompanyen. Començo per la Cecilia Irene Flagenheimer, sí, és així? Que és directora d'art de Mondadori Libri. Va estudiar disseny industrial a Milà amb una gran passió pel disseny gràfic aplicat inicialment a productes i per casualitat més tard va entrar al món editorial. Fa més de 20 anys que treballa en les sobrecobertes i cobertes de llibres per a 3 segells del grup editorial Mondadori Libri, des dels grans èxits pel món infantil com Geronimo Stilton, a obres per adults signades per Italo Calvino o Ken Follett. Té també experiència en tallers aplicats a cobertes de llibres per a il·lustradors a l'Escola Mi Master Illustrazione de Milà i a la Fira del Llibre de Guadalajara el 2021. També imparteix classes de disseny de cobertes a l'Escola d'Escriptura Creativa Belleville, també a Milà. Moltes gràcies per ser aquí. Després també tenim a la Debbie Vivo, que és la fundadora de Picture Book Agent. És agent literària i productora editorial de llibres infantils il·lustrats, originària del nord de Califòrnia. Es va mudar a Milà el 1992 i va treballar durant anys al sector editorial d'art abans de fundar Debbie Vivo Agency el 2011. L'agència representa i promou una selecció eclèctica d'escriptors i il·lustradors debutants i supervendes de tot el món. Molts dels llibres que representa han rebut premis prestigiosos i diversos s'han publicat en més de 20 idiomes. Debbie també és consultora editorial per a museus i editorials independents i imparteix cursos sobre creació de llibres il·lustrats, sobre el mercat del llibre infantil i sobre els drets i el paper dels agents a Mi Master Illustrazione, a l'Institut Europeu de Disseny i a la Universitat Catòlica del Sacro Cuore de Milà. Moltes gràcies per ser aquí. Després també tenim en Giacomo Benelli, coordinador general de Mi Master Illustrazione i treballa com a dissenyador cultural, abastant des de la formació fins als comissariat d'exposicions i esdeveniments dedicats a l'edició il·lustrada i a la professió d'il·lustrador. Des del 2017 és un dels comissaris de The Illustrator Survival Corner, un programa dedicat a la il·lustració creat per Mi Master Illustrazione en col·laboració amb la Fira del Llibre Infantil de Bolonya. El 2018, The Illustrator Survival Corner es va expandir a la Fira Internacional del Llibre Infantil de Xangai, el 19 a la de Moscou i des del 21 és a Lituània, a la Fira del Llibre de Frankfurt, a la Fira del Llibre de Sharjah, dels Estats Units, i a la Fira del Llibre de Guadalajara, Mèxic, i a la Fira Mundial del Llibre de Nova Delhi, Índia. Sou a tot el món. El 2018, en col·laboració amb la Fundació Arnoldo i Alberto Mondadori, van coordinar el curs intensiu Direcció Editorial Creativa, un projecte de formació centrat en el disseny cultural dins de la indústria editorial. És coautor, juntament amb Ivan Cano, d'Illustrator Survival Guide, d'Illustrator Survival Guide Editors and Publishers i d'Illustrator Survival Guide Translators. El 2024 va formar part del jurat del concurs d'il·lustració Golden Pinhill, Young Illustrators Competition, organitzat per la Fira Internacional del Llibre Infantil de Xangai, a la Xina. Viu i treballa a Milà. Moltes gràcies per ser aquí.
Thank you.
I per acabar tenim en Jonathan Valley, editor de GMC Publications Limited. Va començar a treballar a la publicació de revistes per a Highbury House Communications durant 7 anys, començant com a controlador de producció i ascendint a gerent de producció. Després es va unir a Fortune Cookie com a productor, gestionar el disseny i la creació de llocs web. Després d'un any sabàtic i viatjar per tot el món. Molt bé, no? Es va mudar al comtat d'Essex al sud-est d'Anglaterra i va començar a treballar als serveis creatius per a Bridgewater Books i després com a gerent d'operacions a l'Express, amb dues editorials d'IBI Group, amb seu a Lewis, on van crear llibres il·lustrats de no ficció. Actualment és editor de GMC Publications, amb seu a Lewis, on creen i publiquen llibres il·lustrats sobre una àmplia varietat de temes. Les seves especialitats són la producció de revistes i llibres, el flux de treball digital creatiu i la gestió de projectes. Moltes gràcies per ser aquí amb nosaltres. Doncs la idea és la següent, aviam què us sembla. Jo tinc unes preguntes en comú i després tinc algunes preguntes en particular per cadascú de vosaltres, si us sembla bé. Començo per les preguntes en comú. La primera, potser us sona una mica, és com a professionals del món editorial i des del vostre entorn local, teniu coneixement de la il·lustració catalana? Si és així, quina imatge en teniu? Creieu que es pot definir amb uns trets comuns o bé és massa diversa per identificar-la amb un vincle clar? Qui li ve de gust començar?
May I? Let's say that it's not my first time in Spain. I've been collaborating with Ilustratur in Madrid. It was like before COVID, so a long time ago, okay, let's say like that. And then it happened to me to go twice to Bilbao for the Irudica festival, and so it's my first time in Barcelona, but it happened to me in Bologna to review a lot of portfolio from illustrators from Catalonia. And let's say that what I can find is that there is it's not about style, it's more about topics. Okay, let's say the comics, it's very strong here. Indie production are very strong, and fanzine, self-production. So let's say that, yeah, in one word I should say indie. Yeah, independent stuff. Yeah, it's very interesting and something very peculiar here, I smell here, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hello? No, I would just say that the main illustrator that I've worked with for many years now is Eduard Alteriba, who is local to this area, and I love his work. We've published quite a few books now with him, and I think it's... that doesn't help. Sorry. That's okay. But yeah, so I think no, I think he's Catalan through and through, and I think a lot of he's influenced by everything around this area. So yeah.
Well, I don't have so much experience in the Spanish in Spanish illustrators. Mostly we look for illustrators all over the world through the network, but I hope this will be a good opportunity to start getting to know more about your country.
I have to say I don't have a particular idea about illustrators from Catalan. I know a few. I've worked with Miguel Pang, and I have to say I find him very innovative, surreal, colorful, inventive. I don't know. I want to ask you: is Shima Abadia Catalan? Okay, so I know. Okay, so those two. There's something I think kind of progressive, forward thinking, but like Cecilia, for me, it's also I appreciate the opportunity to be here to also get to know your work.
Thank you. Creieu que els il·lustradors s'han d'adaptar d'alguna manera al seu estil als mercats on volen treballar? O l'estil personal pot transcendir fronteres? O sigui, penseu que hi ha estils, temes o formats que es consideren més exportables en el context editorial internacional? Sí, the first part is, creieu que els il·lustradors han d'adaptar d'alguna manera el seu estil als mercats on volen treballar o l'estil personal pot transcendir fronteres?
Can I start? Absolutely. Go with your own style. I just don't believe that changing your style for another market is credible or not credible. It's just, I feel like if you have a certain style and it's strong, it will translate, or it might not translate in all markets, but it'll find a way into different markets. And I don't think it's necessarily important to be, I mean, of course we all want to be universal, but maybe not all work is universal, and that's okay. I don't, there are people whose work don't translate very well, and I know that can be a problem, but I don't think you can change that, personally. I'd be interested in knowing what you guys think.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think half of the joy of working with illustrators from around the world is that you're sort of picking up on the vibe of their illustrations from that from their country, and that can only be a good thing. We would never want to change that, for sure.
Yes, it's sort of a tricky question, because I think it's something that illustrators often ask, whether it's better to get that they have their own style, or that they adapt to what's going on. I agree with them. I think with what Debbie and Jonathan was saying earlier. I think it's important to keep your own style if you have a strong one. As publishers, sometimes we look for illustrators that can adapt their style to what we need. But then, because the market is so big, we can also look for specific illustrators that have the style that we need for that. So I don't think it's good to change what you are. In a way, I think that maybe this is not, you won't like this very much, but I think I always see illustration as an applied art. I mean, I'm on the wrong side. I mean, I'm the publisher, and we are making books to be sold. So I think that illustration has to be functional to the book that we are doing. So I think that sometimes it's important that artists are flexible in order to accomplish what we really need. Sorry if I was long.
I just would like to add like a shift of point of view, that it's not the illustrator adapting to the style or the publisher, but you need a project that is adapting to the illustrator. Okay, so to be universal is sometimes it's impossible, of course, and most of the time is a matter of time and space. Maybe that publisher that you would like to work with, they don't have a project matching to you, but it's just a matter of timing. I mean, don't give up, because I've seen, and maybe Cecilia and Jonathan, they can tell that there are some illustrators that have been waiting 2 years before getting a reply, just because there was not the right project for them. So I think the point of view, it's opposite. It's not you adapting to the market, but you need to wait the market to be ready for you.
Okay, thank you. I què us impacta més en positiu quan rebeu el correu d'un il·lustrador? Ens recomanaríeu alguna estratègia concreta perquè els editors, directors d'art, representants, etc. es fixin en nosaltres?
I would say one. I think it's always very helpful when we receive an email from an illustrator to refer to me by my name. For me to not receive an email, just a generic email that could be sent to a million different people. So if at all possible, always try to find out the name of the commissioning editor or the publisher, whoever you're emailing, and refer to them by their name, because I think I personally always feel more obligated to reply, even if it's no and never email me again. I will probably reply. That was a joke. I wouldn't say that, but I would reply. Where if it's a generic email, and I don't think that their illustrations are fit for our publishing list, then I would be less likely to reply.
Well, we get really a lot of emails by illustrators, and sometimes it's I always have a look, but I think it's a lot about what Giacomo was saying earlier. Have the to be lucky in a way to get there at the right moment, because I really have the experience of some emails that were arriving and I was just looking for somebody for something, and that was the right moment. That's just coincidence. It's nothing that you can prepare. I know that I sometimes don't reply to illustrators. I usually try to reply just saying, thanks for your email, we will keep you into consideration. But it's not always easy to come back to them because there's so much information that we get. And what we publish not so many illustrated covers, so it's not so easy to get the right people, the right place, in the right moment.
I think for me it's a little bit different. Of course, timing is always important, and it's luck. You know, it's also draw kind of a lucky. But for me, what really strikes me is humor. For me, when I see something and there's humor in it, that's something that speaks to me viscerally, immediately. So I think I react immediately to humor. And in children's books, that humor is really part of the language of children's books. Almost just as much as a person's style. So for the first thing, humor. And the other thing is something maybe that's not even, I can't really put a word to it, but it's just a sensation. When I read something and I feel like I want to know more. I want to know more about this work, about the person, about what's behind the work, how they thought of this. So I think something that sparks my curiosity. So it could be anything. It has nothing for me to do with style or aesthetic, or it's just somebody who has something to say and they say it in a different way, for me.
I mean, for all the wrong emails, they can come to the Illustrator Survival Corner. We are there for them. I mean,
Okay, molt bé. Següent pregunta. Quin paper juguen les fires internacionals, com les de Bolonya, Guadalajara o Xangai, en la descoberta i contractació d'il·lustradors? Quines en recomanaríeu? Ha canviat d'alguna manera la manera de contractar i col·laborar amb il·lustradors internacionals en els darrers anys? O sigui, dit d'una altra manera, penseu que les fires internacionals són una bona plataforma per trobar feina? Per vosaltres ho és, per trobar il·lustradores i il·lustradors?
let's say, I mean, I'm talking from the teacher side, okay? So I suggest my students not to show portfolios in a book fair, because we said this morning that is the worst environment to have a random meeting with a publisher. Is the good environment when you are finalizing a job with a publisher. Maybe you just get in touch online and finally you can shake a hand or something like that. The best thing for illustrators to do in a book fair is just to study, to have a notebook and day by day, hustle to hustle, study the catalog of the publishers and collecting business cards, collecting the right names of the people to send a portfolio or a book project right after book fair, but 10 days after again. And that's it. I mean, Bologna Book Fair, of course, is okay. I'm Italian. What can I say? I work for them. They are the best. I mean, of course, it's the place to be. And Guadalajara the same. And they are very different. Bologna Book Fair is just a B2B, business to business book fair. So it's really focused on professionals. And I think for illustrators, it's also the chance to meet colleagues, to share some fears and not to feel alone anymore. I think that's the most important things for me as a teacher, to remember illustrators not to stay alone, to connect, because loneliness is, I think, the most dangerous enemy for illustrators.
Yeah, I think I've actually found many illustrators at book fairs, at Bologna Book Fair, Shanghai Book Fair, Moscow Book Fair. Interestingly enough, I haven't found them not from illustrators coming to me, because I don't take appointments, because I just have to sell, like most agents and publishers. At book fairs, I just sell. But I found them through the exhibition, the illustrators exhibition, for example, or by chance, by meeting somebody maybe at a dinner, I don't, but by chance. So I think it's important to be there. And this also leads me to talk about contests. I think contests are really important, because it's a way we're on juries. We see, I've been on several juries, and I've found illustrators, and they weren't the winners. They weren't the winners. There was somebody who just caught my eye, and I thought, aha, and I just wrote down their name. And so participating actively in these things, even if you don't win, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're even this year, for the first time ever at the Bologna Book Fair, the Illustrators Wall, I saw a work I really liked. I took a picture, and there was the business card, and I just took it. So yeah, I think by being proactive, you're able to, it makes you more visible at these fairs. I agree with Giacomo. I don't think it's a place to pitch your portfolio or project, unless the publisher or agent has open hours to review portfolios.
Yeah, well, I don't have such a big experience in fairs. I would go to Bologna and to Frankfurt, and that's it mostly. So as a publisher, I always look for illustrators in those situations, but I don't take appointments because I don't have the time, so I don't review portfolios. So being there in some way, but maybe just through the wall in Bologna, or through your work being shown at publishers already. So we always catch an eye on everything that's going on, but we don't make special appointments.
A little bit by contrast, we we have actually published a few books that have been just pitched to us at Bologna Book Fair. Again, Edward Alteriba. We had organised a meeting, and I'd seen his work before, but then we did commission his first book from off the back of that. And there's been one other book that we've commissioned just from a meeting at Bologna Book Fair. So, but I completely understand what you guys are saying, and would agree to a certain extent as well. But yeah, in terms of book fairs, I haven't been to Shanghai or Guadalajara, but Bologna is I think it gives you a very good, as an illustrator, it gives an illustrator a very good sense of the industry and the scale of the industry, and I think it's probably pretty daunting in some ways, but also very inspirational as well.
Okay, Jonathan, we're looking for you in the fairs.
Everybody, Jonathan's down.
We're chasing you. Okay, next question. Següent pregunta. Seguint amb el tema de la internacionalització, creieu que les escoles com les vostres on treballeu i les associacions professionals com la PIC poden tenir un paper més actiu en la internacionalització? Penseu que és important això? És necessari que tinguem tant escoles com associacions un paper més actiu a la internacionalització?
What happened, I mean, with students at the beginning, they do believe that their country is the market. That is a big mistake. I mean, Italy is not a market. It's not a market enough that can help you make a living. Okay, that's what I said. And so I think that internationalization, it's a road that you can't skip. You can't avoid this. You have to go there. So I push a lot my students to think about that. The market is global. The market is the world. You can go, and it's so easy today. I mean, it's so easy. My business partner, Ivan Kanu, he's an illustrator, and he started like in the early 90s, just before internet. And okay, that was something. It was something at the time to be an illustrator. I mean, it was really, you really need to go in a place to bring your portfolio. It was a lot of money, a lot of time, a big effort. So any kind of actions that schools or association they could deliver to help this, to open the point of view to the young illustrators, it is more than welcome, and especially with what's going, for instance, about also the copyrights law and the intellectual property laws and the AI situation. But in general, I think that it's even more required the role of association like APIC to provide some guidelines and some points of view for the new illustrators, how to manage the rights of their illustrations, because they really don't know too. And I'm sorry to say, but I think this is something that happened in Italy. Sometimes beginners, they say thank you if somebody give them a job. It's not thank you, it's about money. I mean, it's a point of view that it tells a lot. They do not dare to ask to stand for their rights when they are beginners, because they really feel themselves so lucky that someone had a look on them, that the spotlight was on them, that is enough. But in this way, you misbehave, and you don't help the market to grow in a proper way. And also, you start your career, I think, with the wrong step. So what school and association we can do together is really to guide this crucial moment of the career of illustrators, to make them understand that it's a work and need to be paid, first of all, and you don't have to say thank you. You have to say thank you if the work went well and the art director has been kind to you, have been collaborative, but not for the fact that he's looking at you, because you are solving a problem for the publisher. You are solving a problem.
Yeah, because we are the bad guys, because we are the publishers and they're the good ones. So we have to say thanks, and it's true. You are solving a problem. When everything works well, you are solving a problem. Going back to your question, I would say that globalization, more than internationalization, is really very, very important. So I think whatever schools or associations can do to help illustrators is welcome. I think it's really needed. And we look everywhere. We have no boundaries, you know. Sometimes it's really difficult. Like we were buying some rights from Korea lately, from illustrators, and it was really hard because difficult with paperwork, a lot of things that even for us were complicated, and probably for them too. So I think that's anyway the direction we're going to.
I'm not sure if I've got much to add, really. I think, yeah, it's just very it's vital that you know, we sell the rights to our books in as many different countries and territories as we possibly can, and if we can work with illustrators whose work makes that easier, then that can only be a good thing. But I think having an organisation like APIC on your side can only be beneficial.
No, I agree with everyone. I just wanted to add one thing. I think these kind of events, stuff like this that APIC promoted, where you can meet with different figures of the publishing industry, are so valuable. And the schools do the same. For example, MeMaster does the same. The professors are actually professionals. And so we work with MeMaster, and so students are actually talking to art directors and agents and publishers and editors and production directors. And so for me personally, I think it's just important to be in a place where you can have that dialogue with other people, and I think associations do a great job with that. And it's great also that the associations are often in touch with publishers and with editors and with these figures that it might be more difficult to have the opportunity to meet. Not that meeting that person might get you a job. It might, but I don't think it's that. It's this kind of knowledge that I think it's important that gets circulated.
La següent pregunta té a veure amb les xarxes socials. Un tema que els il·lustradors i il·lustradores sovint estem una mica obsessionats perquè sentim que hem d'anar mostrant constantment la feina que fem. Llavors tenim un dubte sempre, que és hem de mantenir una mena de línia superlògica, com si fos, no? Abans, aquest matí ens han parlat, no, sobre com havíem de fer el portafolis, de seguir. Però en realitat a les xarxes socials que pugem moltes més imatges, el que ens ve de gust és també mostrar tot allò nou que estem fent, els camins que estem obrint, allò que experimentem. Aleshores, la pregunta que moltes tenim és: això a vosaltres us agrada o us fa por? O sigui, quan veieu els nostres experiments, les nostres evolucions, penseu, mira que bé, està creixent, té moltes més lectures, o en realitat penseu, ui, 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 no és de fiar perquè no sé per on sortirà, quan li encarregui alguna cosa. Què en penseu d'això?
Both, or at least my relationship with social. I have a very conflicted relationship with social media, and so on the one hand, of course, I have to use it to promote my artists. Obviously, it's important. I have to use it. I'm not great at it, and of course, I use it to scout, to find illustrators. So we can't ignore it. But I do think it can become toxic. You can have that, that relationship with it. I think in moderation, I think websites are still important. If I do go and look at websites as well, and I'm not so interested. If it gives me a good idea, I kind of look, but I'm not, it just needs to kind of give me a feel for the artist. And then I just feel like each artist kind of has their own way. And I understand those who aren't so interested in showing everything. And so I'm trying to have to find them more. So I'm almost more intrigued, to be honest. Not the one who's always posting, but the interesting posts, and then I can go and maybe see them on Substack or maybe see them, on their website. I do think it almost takes away time. I think it at least for me, it takes a lot of creative energy to do that, and I think that creative energy can be better used in their work. And I don't think it's necessary to show everything all the time. Aside from AI taking everything that you guys are showing and that we're showing, I just don't think. I think it's nice. I think there's something elusive in not showing everything and having something in your back pocket. I feel like we're almost over showing and oversharing. That's my point of view. Probably because I don't like posting all the time. Personally, somebody else might have another point of view.
Well, I also have sort of a controversial. I'm really a voyeur. I'm never posting anything about myself or about my work, even if I could, because I think there would be interesting things to show. But of course, I use it for scouting. So for me, it's interesting to see more things. But the way I look at illustrators is not following one and his or her evolution, but I'm looking for things that can be interesting for me. So it's more random, not in a line. So I think it's important to be consistent, and I agree with you not to show things that you don't believe in or you are not you don't think are good enough. But we do look at social media, and we do find people there, and maybe specific illustrations a lot. Maybe we have one subject and we look for that, and we've really contact people all over the world without knowing anything about them.
I would just add that I think definitely people can post, and some people do post far too much. And I mean it doesn't gain anything. I think also sometimes it's very exciting when one sees a new illustrator's work, and you pretty much within a few seconds of seeing just one or two of their their illustrations, you think this is great, and it doesn't take much more than that. to know that this is somebody that you're potentially keen to work with. So I think yeah, absolutely, less is more.
I think that if someone would like to use the social media to show some experiment, something out of the box, it's fine as long as it's consistent, as long as it tells something that about you, and that's it. It's not scary. I mean, if you have a website and where you have your professional voice, and then you use your social media in a professional way, but also to show something more different or underground or some of your patients, why not? I mean, of course, illustration related, not that you like windsurfing or okay, and that's it. But please, I would like to add something and about social media. Again, I go back to the illustrator's point of view and to the beginners, because they are by everyday life, and they are so they feel such a frustration looking at the Instagram of the people, well-established people, or middle-established, let's say, people with a career, because what they see is just one publication after another. Bam, 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 bam. And they always forget that there is a hidden storyline that we could call antigram. Does it work? Does it work for you? Okay. I mean, we could have in the same feed, okay, and there is a hidden story made of mistakes and failures that is totally hidden between these two fantastic publications. There are so many failures and mistakes. Sorry, and I think this is the point. This is what is really crucial with social media, that we forget that it's not the full story. It's a selection. It's storytelling. It's a piece of art. So it's fiction. It's fiction, and it would help a lot. What I do, for instance, when I have some time, when they allowed me, some of the great artists, great illustrators, they come teach to me master. I ask them if they would be available to give the first day a presentation of their work, and wow, 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 masterpiece, 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 and the day after to give a presentation of the killed covers, of the rejected projects, of the wrong projects. And sometimes they do, and let me say that people like John Gray, he did. I mean, one of the greatest book cover designers in UK, he did, and he was really funny because he made the presentation with, you remember Rocky Balboa, the movie? Okay, it's a very old movie, but he's struggling a lot to get, with all the killed book covers or the rejected book covers. And I could see the face of my students say something, oh Jesus, thank you. But I think it's something that we are not considering the impact that this kind of storytelling of success, of hyper-performing, is generated on young illustrators.
Molt interessant. Bueno, vaig a treure un altre tema polèmic, que és el de la intel·ligència artificial. Tu ja com has parlat una mica aquest matí. A la professió és un tema que ens té molt preocupats, que en parlem molt. Parlo de la intel·ligència artificial generativa, la que genera imatges. I voldria saber la vostra opinió. Considereu que és un risc real per a la professió d'il·lustrador o considereu treballar amb ella d'alguna manera?
Producers? Bad guys?
Okay, well, I think it's very concerning, of course. I have to say we have used a little bit of AI. It was a little bit of an experiment, and it was not for an illustrated book as such. We also published some craft books, and we did we're working on a book which needed some background, subtle background sort of scenes, and we used we did some experiments with AI to see how they would look, and it was actually quite effective. So I think there's a place for AI, but I think one of the scariest things is when we're commissioning illustrations, is knowing whether there's an element of any illustrations that might have been generated with AI, and yeah, that's a concern. I think, even if just a year ago or 2 years ago, there would be no question, but actually now it's been brought to the forefront, and yeah, it's a concern. I think we'll have to see what happens in the next few years. It'll be very interesting.
Couple of years, no more.
Well, of course, it's very controversial, and we are using some AI sometimes for very quick sketches. I think at the moment we are considering it as a tool, and I think illustrators need to learn to use it. I don't think going against it is going to take us anywhere. So when I started working, we almost didn't use computers, and then we learned to use them, and we learned to use programs, and they were a huge help. Of course, it's still very difficult to know where it's taking us, but we cannot, I think we really need to learn to use it, and in the right way. I don't know, of course, there are some situations in which it's a shortcut to use AI, and that's not the right way to use it, I think, because then it's going to be substituting your work. But for example, we are now working on a project about ancient Romans, and we've been asked to create something by the author specifically with AI, because it's a sort of kind of illustration or animation that it's going to be very hard to produce in another way. So I think that, for example, is a good situation to experiment. We are experimenting. We don't have a very straight policy yet about how to use it. Mostly what we are saying is we can use it, but then we still need to have a human being working again, reworking the image. That's a little bit the policy that we are adopting, but it's not totally straight. It's evolving.
I'm of two minds again. Like social media, I'm of two minds about AI. I studied photography, and of course, when I say photography, when photography was invented in 1839, of course, everybody thought the painters are going to lose their jobs, of course, because photographers are taking pictures. And I really believe, like what Cecilia said, that AI is a tool and should be used as a tool. I also understand the concern. I think my biggest concern is copyright issues, much more than whether or not, I actually think as a tool, it's really interesting. And it's interesting to give that input and see what happens. And I think for me is if that illustration moves someone and if it does a good job and if we don't have to think about whether or not it's AI, I'm not as concerned. My concern is if that image looks like somebody else that we recognize, and how do we distinguish that? How do we know? And so that's very, very that's a very fine line to draw, and I think that's what I find quite disconcerting is how can we deal with that? And I think this is what illustrators are dealing with today. How can we deal with something that looks like John Klassen, which is very easy to imitate? I don't think John Klassen's worried, because I think John Klassen or somebody, I think at that point, I really think, I don't think AI is that refined to write those kind of stories, but that's something else. But maybe tomorrow it will be. Yeah, I don't know. So again, no clear answer, no clear answers here. I don't think, I'm not so sure about, I would love to see something. I'll just give you an anecdote here. An artist I represent was on the jury of a contest 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, so still quite a long time ago in terms of AI. So the winner, so professional jury, the winner was an artist who then told the jury that he had generated it with AI, and the jury decided not to reward him, which I found a bit incorrect, because I think that should have been announced beforehand. I think they should have said no AI, but I think it was maybe at the beginning. And then I thought these were all they were professional illustrators, they were art directors, they were publishers, editors. If they thought that it was real and if they liked it, I don't understand. I have a hard time understanding why not. There's still a mind behind that. There was a mind that put those prompts in there. So yes, that's I'm gonna leave it at that anecdote.
Can I just add
Yes.
something which is quite weird and not very funny that's happening? And it's that even authors are coming with AI images for what they want for the covers. And that's very, very difficult to handle. But I agree both about copyright and about, I think it's interesting what you were saying about the contest. If everybody liked it and everybody thought it was the best, is it right or not?
And but if we go back to the memory before AI, so let's say yesterday, just yesterday, and I've been participating in many juries, and I've been watching many juries working, and I'm referring to to Italy when Beatrice Alemagna she came out. How many Alemanniers we had? We had an army of people imitating Beatrice Alemagna style. We had these drawings full of vegetables and salads everywhere. I can't forget. I mean, is that different? Where is the difference between this and when you prompt an AI to draw something like Beatrice Alemagna? And then I've seen some juries that, and it's up to the knowledge of the single jurors, not recognizing a copycat because it was just a lack of culture. But I mean, how can you know all the illustrators in the world? But they were some clearly copycat, and it's the same. It was the same situation. Or when we started using digital tools like Photoshop and Illustrators, they were shortcut, of course. They helped a lot to make it help illustrators work faster. And I can't forget that people was asking to illustrators, you did it by hand or you did it digital? And it's funny because digital, it comes from Latin, that is digitum, that means finger. So in any case, you have been using hands. I mean, there is no way to escape from that. So I think that the key point is policy. We need policy, we need regulations. And better if we have international regulations. Because to have national regulation, it's meaningless for what we said just before. So we need boundaries. Let's say, okay, you can claim the copyright of the illustration even if you're using AI for the 30% of the project. I don't know how to manage this, but it's not my job. But I do really believe that we need public regulation from governments, because I think that the most scary things for me is that the AI owners are private, mad, white Caucasian people. That is really scary. It's just private people. They can shut down, or they can decide just to our life is just with a click. When we were in China together with Debbie, we gave a talk about AI. There was a big panel with a lot of CEO AI Chinese publishers, and what they said was scary, absolutely scary. They were announcing a future that was just made up of AI. I mean, there were some people claiming that AI could write properly a text, a story. You remember a story for children of 7 years old? They don't need editors anymore. They don't need authors anymore. They don't need parents anymore. I don't think so. We will still need a human touch, even more. We'll need a human touch. But as I said this morning, the low quality illustration, they will be fully replaced by AI. I mean, we can't say different, and so we have to think about it. Illustrators have to work on themselves, and try to help their human voice to come out bigger and louder, because I think we are misunderstanding that artificial intelligence is not intelligence. It's not intelligent. It's just powerful and effective, but it's not intelligent. She's just repeating the same stuff. I mean, she can't create. It's not creating. It's just putting together the most frequent outcome from the prompt you are giving to her. So there is still hope, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. I ara passem a les preguntes individuals, si us sembla bé. Això no vol dir que si algú es vol colar i respondre a la pregunta d'algú altre no estigui permès. I començo per la Cecília, si et sembla bé. Cecília, quins criteris teniu en compte a l'hora de seleccionar il·lustradors estrangers per a projectes editorials? Hi ha algun criteri en concret que feu servir quan l'il·lustrador no és, en el vostre cas, italià, sinó que l'aneu a buscar o us ve a buscar des d'un altre país?
Well, we don't select since the beginning whether we want Italian or foreigner illustrators, unless we have to commission something maybe a little bit difficult or from an Italian author, which might make sometimes. Yes, that was a big challenge. But mostly, if we have to commission, we try to stay in Italy because we think it's easier to deal with illustrators. Maybe it's a bit narrow-minded way of looking at things, but maybe it's just also a matter of time and being practical. This is one small criteria, but not unical. I mean, and then no, we have no criteria. We just look for the best we think that will answer our needs for the cover. So, but yes, what Giacomo was saying, that was a big challenge. We had a contest for the new Italo Calvino's covers 2 years ago, and I decided to go abroad. Specifically, that was exactly the opposite. I decided to work only with foreigners and only with people I had never worked with. So there was no history with them. So everything was very spontaneous, and it worked very well. I think I was very lucky, and the Irish designer who won the contest, it was very nice because he said that this was his dream work. That was what he always wanted to do on the Calvino covers. So it was good.
La següent pregunta és per a la Debbie. Quin paper té una agència com la teva en l'estratègia d'internacionalització d'un il·lustrador? O sigui, com orientes a un il·lustrador perquè el seu treball tingui més possibilitats de ser publicat en diversos idiomes i mercats? O bé no l'orientes, simplement el deixes fer?
No, that's a great question. I think it's very important. The international market, as Giacomo said, we're in Italy. Not all of my artists are based in Italy. It's really, I take that per basis, it depends, because some are already very international, others have only published in Japan or in certain markets, in Brazil or whatever the market may be. So it's a conversation that we have together. So we have a conversation. Some artists say, I really want to be published in many. I really want to be published in English. That's in the United States, in England, that's because it's a huge market. So if they say that, at that point I will tailor. I will look at what they did and say, some things might not resonate for certain reasons. So we can look at that. And we look at why. There is a certain aesthetic, and this we can't, I mean, of course, going back to I think your first question, there are certain things that translate really well into certain markets and others that don't. And so I just try to make that clear to them without having them change. And I'll say, or a certain story. Let's say there's a story that I know that'll be very difficult for this story to be published in the United States because of who knows. I mean, there could be for politically correct issues, for other issues and I'll let them know that. and then it's their decision, because it's their career and it's their. So I just try to let them, know. On the other hand, I also think the other side of that is often I'll see something where I just feel it is universal, and I just think, wow, this is like sky's the limit. So, but how do we do that? As an agent, I do work with co-agents. I don't work on my own. So I have co-agents in Japan, in Korea, in China, etc., in Eastern Europe. So it's not just me working, but it's me also getting feedback from my co-agents as well and working together.
Next question is for Giacomo. Com a creador d'aquestes guies tan interessants que has fet, quines són les recomanacions més importants que faries als il·lustradors que volen donar un impuls internacional a la seva carrera? Si ens poguessis donar el top 3 de les 3 grans recomanacions, quines serien? És molt complicada la pregunta?
Learning at least one language on top, and English. I'm sorry to say English. Yeah. And top 3. Wait. Traveling. I think you can't decide to explore if you decide to invest in a market as an illustrator, okay, I want to go to the Chinese or the Japan or the Korea, you have to go there. If you want to be an editorial illustrator, and let's say that you want to get published on the New York Times, that is a sort of, paradise of, you have to go there. First of all, to get familiar with the environment, to know the people, to say hello to an art director, and also sometimes to demagnify the fear of the art directors, to make them being human being. Okay, it's just a man. I mean, I've seen people so scared from the top, the top gun art directors from US. So traveling, and third, being ready to change your point of view. Being flexible, and start to thinking that our point of view is just one of the possible options. As Debbie said, sometimes you have a story, but you can't publish it in the US. Of course you can. You need to adjust it if you really want to go there. So maybe you have to step back from some of your beliefs, of your ideas. Are you ready for that? Yes, no, it's worthy enough to step back from your ideas. So to be open-minded, to travel, to be open-minded, to speak a language. Drawing, being good at drawing, it's not enough to be an illustrator. It's absolutely not enough, because we can say that it's full of illustrators that they can't draw properly, but they are super published. And they are successful. I mean, they can't draw in an academic way. Okay, they do not respect the rules of perspective, and who cares? But they have a language, they have some contents, and they provide it. But at the same time, they are good professionals. They are people with they know how to behave. They are curious. They have been traveling a lot, and they are ready to play different games, and with an open mind. I think that's the most important thing. Thank you.
Next, la següent pregunta és per en Jonathan, que potser l'has mig respost abans, si no en tinc una altra per tu, però en principi la que et volia fer és quina és la teva experiència treballant amb il·lustradors catalans o internacionals? Hi ha alguna cosa d'aquesta experiència en particular que ens podries transmetre, que ens pogués ajudar?
Oh, I have to be quite careful. Really, I have to go back to Edward, who is I've worked with Edward Alteriba. How do you say Edward Alteriba?
Eduard Alteriba.
Okay, so I'm not too far off, but anyway, yeah. I first met Edward in 2018, probably 2017, that sort of thing, we immediately kind of hit. He's quite a gruff. He actually has quite a kind of English sense of humour, I suppose, in some ways, and quite difficult to sort of please. Very dry sense of humour. But we did hit it off really quickly, and I think and he's just a pleasure to work with. He's also just an incredibly creative guy. So I don't think I'm answering your question at all, but I'm going to carry on. No, I mean I think it's related to this. Is that I think it's so important to try to build a relationship with the people you're working with. It makes everybody's life much easier, and actually I think ultimately you'll end up with a better product if you enjoy working with the people you're working with, not just your publisher, but also it's a team effort. So you're working with a designer and an editor, other people as well, production people, and the more people you can you work with and get on with, it just makes the process more enjoyable. But I think also you do end up with a better product. So yeah, gone off topic there.
Thank you very much. Go back to Cecilia. Qui creus que ha de tenir en compte un il·lustrador que vol treballar en cobertes per a un mercat com el vostre? És millor adaptar-se a les tendències o mantenir un estil personal ben definit? I ja posats, et faig una segona pregunta en aquesta. Què pot fer que et decideixis pel seu estil?
Well, I think it's a little bit similar to what we were talking in the very beginning. I think if we choose an illustrator, we do it because he or she have a special style which we like, or because there is a specific illustration that we liked and it fits well the book that we're working on. And that's even best because you don't need to commission. But I agree on what Jonathan says, that it's very important, the feeling that you get and the dialogue that you get with the illustrator. And that can work both abroad or in Italy, even if, of course, it might be easier in Italy. But I think it's really important, the relation you create. I like to try to keep working with some people, not once, but more times, like even with the illustrators that are students at Midmaster. Maybe they win a contest and then we call them again to design something else. And it's building a relation which also always helps to make things better. I hope I answered.
Now for Debbie again. Quines qualitats professionals i personals també valores en un il·lustrador a l'hora de representar-lo internacionalment?
Today I talked about this for those who were at my presentation today. First and foremost, somebody who has something to say. For me, somebody who has something to say in an original, somebody who has their own voice. I look for that. That's first and foremost what I look for. Something that surprises me, that strikes me, that speaks to me on a visceral level. But I also look for professionalism, because you can be, as Cecilia said in the beginning, you can be an incredible artist, but we're at the service of. We're at the service of readers, we're at the service of publishers, editors. So there has to be a professional attitude as well. Humor, and I've talked about this over and over. I love irony and humor. So I look for that. I look for curiosity. And as I mentioned today, I really do look for, and this is something that comes out, but I can gauge this in one of the first meetings, humility, humbleness. And I think that listening, these kind of things, because for a long-term relationship, I think we need this trust. We need these things. And without which trust, we personally, as an agent, you can't really go anywhere. But also that humility, because sometimes I feel like often maybe an illustrator might go through a really great period and then they'll be like, flying on cloud nine, and then something happens. So they have to have that kind of stability to be able to, it's an up and down kind of, something might go really well and your next book might not go as well. And so that kind of having that kind of humility for good and for bad, I think really helps. And that's character. That's just to say, for me personally, I don't love working with presumptuous people, but I don't think anybody does. I think that goes back to what Jonathan was saying. I think having that nice kind of relationship and dialogue.
Most of illustrators, we have a lot of humility. Maybe
Yeah.
too much?
Right, but sometimes I try, when it's a bit too much, sometimes I try to pump that up. No, but I feel like that's what an agent can do. An agent, I'm the one who's like pumping it up and saying, oh, have you met, do you know this artist? I can, I think, help in promoting the artist. But, I would far take somebody humble than somebody who's like, showing off, because I feel like, and I'm saying this out of experience. I feel like these characters these people in the long run, on a personal level, they're harder to deal with. And at the end of the day, we're not psychologists, we're agents. And so we're publishers, and there has to be a psychological element, but I don't want to spend my time, of course I want to encourage my artists, and of course I want to champion them. And of course I'm there for them, but there does have to be this boundary. And so also a certain level of maturity. And a student can be very mature. It's not age, right? Maturity is not age at all, so yes.
For Giacomo, quins errors habituals que detectes sovint en il·lustradors que intenten fer el salt internacional? Sí, perdona, que he formulat malament la pregunta. Hi ha errors habituals que detectes en els il·lustradors que intenten fer el salt internacional? Com els podrien evitar, aquests errors?
I think that the biggest mistake is always of overestimation of ourselves. So they just go international without studying the market previously. And they go international just because all the doors in their own country were closed. That is not properly a choice of going international. It's just a B plan, but okay, you can't go like this. But I think that even if you want to go international or stay in your country, who cares? And I'm going back to what Debbie was saying. Humility, maturity is not a matter of age. I think what I see in my students now after 16 years is that there is a point where that make the professional. The point is when you learn to put distance between yourself and your drawings. Okay? And I used to say to my students when the first day of school, I said, you are here to learn how to fail. And they look at me like, so I'm paying all this money for this? I say, yes. You are here to learn how to fail because you will have all your career to have success. But I want to teach you how to fail and how to go on and how to deal with denials. And the first thing to do is to try them to put distance, because if you don't put distance, you can't improve. It's like when you fall in love with someone at the very beginning, even if your family, your best friends, they tell you, hey, you can't see? He's an asshole. You can't see it because you are in love. There is no distance. And it's exactly the same kind of psychological mechanism when you are too involved with your drawings, with your illustration. If the art directors or a friend or a colleague tell you, I don't think it's working, I don't think it's fulfilling the communication task, because, as you said, we are at the service of the project. You can't see it, you can't fix it, you can't improve it. So I think that the first crucial step, that's where you can start being a professional, is to learn how to put distance. So I love you, but I can see your bad sides and I can fix it. And I can even say, no, you're not good. Let's start again. I think this is something very difficult. I mean, it's the same. I used to write, and it's the same for me. I fall in love with some ideas, and I have to say, no, Okay, zoom out. It's just a text. It's not a prosthesis of your ego. Okay, dismiss your ego and say, okay, it's not working. Let's do it again. I think this is one of the most terrible things to learn when you are young. But the sooner you learn it, the easiest will be your career, your professional life, because everything will be more easy to handle, easy to manage. Because in an illustrator's career, I mean, the denials are a lot compared to the yes, let me say. So I think that the first thing to do is to learn how to manage this amount of no, 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 no. Everybody is fine with yes. Who's not fine with success? I mean.
And for Jonathan, quan busques un il·lustrador per a un projecte en concret, tens una idea molt clara de l'estil que necessites o prefereixes triar entre les propostes que reps?
It's a great question. I think normally when we're commissioning a book, we have a pretty specific idea of what we're looking to achieve, and we'll quite often go down quite a long way down the route of commissioning some sample illustrations, but quite often we'll realise, I would say probably 40% of the time we'll realise actually this isn't, we need to change tack, because not necessarily with another illustrator, but it's a long process, getting to the style of illustration that you know's right for what you're ultimately looking to publish. It can be quite a painful process. It's a very fun process, but it can be quite long and drawn out. But saying that, actually, sometimes it's incredibly easy as well. I think sometimes we do commission books that come out of seeing an illustration or a style of illustration that we love, and it just marries up with an idea that we've got. And it's that's pretty easy. We love those ones.
Fantàstic. Moltes gràcies.
Thank you.
És molt interessant tot el que esteu dient. A nosaltres ens ajuda molt saber la vostra perspectiva, no? Tenir la mirada de l'altra banda. I abans de passar al torn de preguntes, us voldria fer una pregunta una mica absurda. Voleu dir alguna cosa? Alguna cosa que durant tota aquesta jornada d'avui que hem estat parlant d'internacionalització, dels temes que toqueu, que us importen i que ens importen, alguna cosa que se us ha quedat al pap que dieu, ostres, això ningú m'ho ha preguntat o això voldria dir-ho, o això és un tema que sempre tinc al cap i em ve de gust comentar? Hi ha alguna cosa que us vindria de gust dir? Si no, passem a les preguntes. Sí?
I just going on a little bit from what I was saying about getting on with the people you work with. We've actually it makes life so much easier, and we've actually ended up producing quite a few multiple projects with one illustrator, simply because they're a pleasure to work with, and adaptable. And it's having that relationship with an illustrator is so beneficial. So I'm not sure if any of you saw my presentation earlier. It was quite long. Apologies, but actually we probably only work with, I'm not sure actually, but like 12 illustrators. But most of our illustrators have worked on multiple books with us, because we like, we build that relationship. And I know we'll carry on working with them. And actually we've taken on, they slightly shape our list. It's a very much a collaborative effort.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Teniu alguna pregunta?
for Debbie. Debbie, you said you have co-agents in other countries, so what about Spain? Do you have a co-agent here?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't have sorry. I don't have a co-agent in Spain. Not because I know the Spanish market so well, but over the years I've been able, it's a market that's much more accessible to me in terms of geography, language. I can read, let's say, Spanish. And so I'm able to communicate quite well with the publishers here. It's very easy for me to meet with publishers in both Catalan publishers in Barcelona, Madrid, and other places. I think the reason, that's a great question, the reason why I have co-agents in places like Japan, China, etc., is one, language, but more than language, it's impossible to work in Japan without an agent. It's really I tried, and apart from cultural issues, which we talked about today, apart from cultural issues, they don't work without, agents work with agents there on both sides. And Spain's much easier much easier. I found it easier so far.
Okay, so I should contact you directly if I want to.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And also, by the way, the co-agent is actually, the co-agents don't work with so much our illustrators. They license the books. They sell the actual projects. Okay.
Yes, another question.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, or any of you, for advice for people who want to sell projects, not just the illustration. I am an author as well,
okay.
so yeah. So any recommendations on that?
Yeah.
I would say putting together a really, really good synopsis and some sample material, addressing it to the person, if at all possible, with a name. It just helps. But yeah, and I think, trying to get your, like with anything, whenever you're pitching anything, trying to kind of get your point across as quick as possible, so that we don't have to read loads and loads. That's helpful. Yeah, we normally have a very good idea whether or not a project's right for us pretty quickly. But if the synopsis and the presentation is short and sweet and to the point, that's great.
If I can add to that, I think I discussed this as well today. It's really important to do your homework. And so, for example, on my agency's website, we have submission guidelines. And the reason why we have those guidelines is it's important to see the comp titles, the competitive and comparable titles. It's important, your biography. But I think it's mostly important for the author, illustrator, the picture book creator to do their homework, finding the right publisher. Because as Jonathan said, just the same with me, I can tell almost in a nanosecond if it's for me. Literally, it's that fast. And so I think the more you do your homework, the more you focus on the right publishers, the higher the success rate, because you're speaking their language. And I'll tell you guys this anecdote. I'm sure Giacomo has heard this anecdote before, because I've told it a million times, but I'll say it just to get the point across. My very first Bologna book fair, I had two projects. I represented two artists basically, and I went to this meeting, and I realized when I was at the meeting, when I was waiting for my appointment, I was looking around and thinking, oh God, these books are so distant from what I have. And I started feeling nervous and agitated, like, God, I should have checked this before. I didn't do, and I didn't check out who that editor is. And I sat down, and when I showed the editor my project, she looked at me and she said, have you ever seen our books? Like that, literally. And my face turned beet red. And she said, obviously you haven't, because this has nothing to do with us, and you wasted my time. And which was very harsh, but she was right. I wasted her time. I wasted my time too. I could have been talking to somebody who spoke the same language. And so I think that's important, to really do your homework, because that's exactly what an agent does. That's exactly what a foreign rights manager does. When I shop my books around, I still today, after nearly 15 years, it takes me a lot. Aside from, I put a lot of time into the pitch, a lot of time into positioning the title. but mostly into finding the right, not only the right publisher, the right editor at that publishing house. And so I check them out. I try to find interviews. Yeah.
How do you get that information? Because that's available for an agent. But
No. That's available to everybody. Publishers Week. That's available to everybody. Rights reports. I mean, I look and I read. That's pretty much. This is information. I go to the publisher's website and I literally look for the names of the editors, and then I Google them. I stalk them.
nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of questions. In the first place, maybe it's a bit stupid, even a bit naive question. This is for, let me follow the running gag for the bad guys. And now, would you be able to say, it's a curiosity, in which percentage you hire illustrators by scouting, by we call it cold door.
Cold call?
Right in English, by email directly to you, or by agents? That's the first question I have for the bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very small percentage of commissions that we'll give to people who cold call. To be honest, you know, we get, and I'm probably speaking for all of us to a certain extent, but we do get so many. I mean, every day I'll probably get 15 or 20, sometimes more. That might be an exaggeration. No, I don't know. But probably on average, I don't know, 15, 20 emails from illustrators. Sometimes illustrators, I've seen their work before, and they've forgotten that they've emailed me anyway. And we're quite a small publisher. We only publish around 20 books a year, that sort of thing. And as a saying earlier, we repeat work with certain illustrators. So it's it's a small percentage of work that we're putting out to illustrators. It's tough. There's no question.
Yeah, well, we are not working on illustrated books, but just book covers. Many book covers are also just photographic or just type. So the illustrated covers are not so many. I don't know. I never checked how many. So it's really difficult to answer about what percentage, about numbers. But altogether, there are not so many illustrated ones, and then we have no boundaries, as I was saying earlier. Even like at the workshop we had this morning, I was showing one cover by an author, and the first two titles were made with one illustrator, and then we changed into photography because we needed a shift. We needed to give the author a new face. So there's not necessarily continuity even with one author that will have all his covers made by the same illustrator. So it's really hard to give a proper answer. And also there is something in design and in illustration, I think, linked to I would even dare saying fashion. I mean, there are styles, there are tastes that keep changing. So maybe something made 10 years ago is still interesting, or it sounds old, so it has to be renewed. So there is something about going forward with style. There's one more thing I wanted to add to what we're saying. One of the questions about style. I think it's not only about style of illustrators, but also about ideas, about interpretation. So getting that connection with the illustrator about their interpretation, not only about style. There are two features which need to be both working well. It has nothing to do with her answer, question, but it came to my mind.
But it worked anyway, thank you. Yeah, on the other hand, or following this line, I don't know if it's right a question or just sharing a thought. From this morning with Giacomo, and it's been out has been spoken now, I have the feeling that we will be agreed that what you are following as a professional, so usually is a soul. It's something with personality. You mentioned consistency. It's something I think Cecilia herself mentioned that word. Sometimes it's difficult because we live in a world, in a social system which pushes us or fosters us to be our own brands or commercials. So it's difficult. I think we will be all agree as artists to be an artist, to be a commercial, and that's why I don't know if it's just write a question or to share a thought. It's to share an anecdote that I think I share with some colleagues, in which sometimes somebody's calling you, is after you because, oh, I've seen your work on network or whatever. Usually these publishers are seeking for cheap illustrators, I have to say. And, oh, we love your work, you are very, happy. And then they say, yeah, but could you use this range of colors or that style or that things? And it's like, whoa, brain blowing, because it's like, okay, you said you checked my work, you love my work. I'm not using yellow. You're asking me to work with yellow, with even with vectorial vector illustration. What do you have to say? Not only bad guys as agents and professionals in general.
Well, I think it's a little bit like your episode when you were.
They didn't do their homework, obviously. Yeah, I just don't think that it's not a good match. If somebody comes to you because they saw your work, I think, like as Jonathan said, I think it's because they want you to do something, or they saw something in your work that resonates with the project that they're working on, and so I don't think they would be very premature to ask at that stage. I can see maybe later on, maybe if they have to correct something or tweak something, but not from the beginning. Ask for a different color palette. No, there's something a bit amiss. There's a disconnect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I see your work on Instagram and I see that you are using a certain technique and you are using a certain palette of colors, it can happen that maybe we get that request from somebody else, from the author, from the editor, but most of the time I try to reject it because I don't think it's fair, because that's your personality, so it's like forcing something else. What might happen is that it happens lately. I have a cover that we're working on, and we like very much the concept, and we like the style. But the author said, "Well, I would like the green to be more brighter or more fluo." And I said, "Well, let's see if it works. You know, I cannot. Maybe it's just something that it's going to be against the nature, the real style of this illustrator, so that." We can try and we can ask the illustrator. So I think it's always being reasonable.
It was a real anecdote, and from a big, huge company.
We feel it. We feel it.
But it's not about the.
It was not me.
Oh yes, and it was not about this little different of the green. Thank you.
But we can tell that also our directors, they do mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
Are we
a
allowed?
lot.
Are we allowed? Okay.
So my question is mostly for Cecilia, because she talked about sculpting through social media, and I don't find it so intuitive to look for things in social media, such as Instagram. Okay, so about scouting through social media, how do you do that? Because it's really hard to get visible on social media and fight the algorithm and all that. So knowing exactly how to write posts in the right way to be found by the people who may need work like what we're doing. So I think that would be really helpful.
I agree with you, but I am not so much into that. I mean, I have some picture researchers which are really dedicated into just looking for pictures or clearing rights, of course. I think Instagram is not so handy to look for things, it's true. And to create, we use more Pinterest for making like mood boards or collections. And I heard that a lot of designers do the same. But there might be some, I don't know, I'm maybe not the right person to answer about how to put your tags to be looked for. But I think it's a good question. I find it very difficult to remember all the things I'm seeing, and the visual information is so much that you get, and the portfolios that you see, and the people in fairs. It's one of the hard things that I have to find, to memorize, to remember about who's the right person for the right thing at the right moment. But
I can tell you what people do, how how people get on my radar, and it might be invasive, but anyway, it works. Is that people start following me, and then they start liking everything, and I'm like, who is this person? And obviously, I'll look. It works. It works. It works. Then I know immediately if I like them or not, and if I like them, then I'll save something, and if I don't, I won't. But at least you know that they're the stalker. No, but at least that's a sure way to get someone's attention, because if you like 15 things, like, oh, I got all these likes. Of course, who is this? And so, 100%. Who's not going to look, right? That's one way. I'm sure Giacomo might have others.
Nothing to add. I mean, you can't fight the algorithm.
Yeah.
Just you have to be brutal, and yeah.
It does work, and I have found people. I mean, I've definitely discovered new people that way, and if I like them, I'll start following them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just one recommendation: do not use social media to direct message your possible clients, please. It's terrible. It's truly terrible. But you are the bad guys. I mean, our expectation is to misbehave from your side, to ask for yellow when you use only black, to direct message in the middle of the night. What?
We sometimes direct message because we are not able to find contacts of designers, of illustrators, and it happened more and more, and you get answers. Then of course I ask, please answer by email to this address, but it's important to be findable.
¿Alguna pregunta més?
How do you typically become aware of these people, of these illustrators? Like, what is the more common ways to find people? Is it typically through social media? Is it typically through someone you met, or through an email, or you look for them directly? And I guess this could be for both of you, but also maybe for the agents as well. Like, do agents look for illustrators, or do they always come to them?
I mean, from my point of view, we have no particular preference. It's everything you just said, and probably a few more things as well. Yeah, I mean, Instagram is great. We do store, me and my colleagues, we all store illustrators whose work we like. I mean, I have a huge folder of their websites, and actually I do refer to it quite regularly. And it's very helpful. That's how I like to work. But some of my colleagues will do the same. Just have an archive, a folder of the illustrators whose work they particularly like, but we haven't got anything right now for them. But perhaps in the future. But then, obviously Instagram and book fairs. Yeah, I mean, everything is not very helpful at all, because it's everything you just said, and there's no particular preference.
Yeah, same for me. No special clue. It all works. Sometimes what we do is that if we see things that we like, just in general, we save them somewhere, and sometimes they come back again. I have a few covers that we are proposing over and over again, the same illustration, the same photography, because we really like that photography, and finally, it sometimes works.
I think that I don't know why they're not saying that, but if you participate in big contests like Bologna Book Fair contest or Golden Pinwheel or whatever, it's quite common among publishers to go to have a look to the finalist list to see if any of their illustrators is a winner or not, so they can promote the book and blah blah blah. But at the same time, they're having a look of all the finalists of the list, and they, at that moment, their attention is really excited. I'm not. It looks like it's a National Geographic, and I'm talking about sharks, but it is. It is. So again, we said already this morning, I think it's important to participate in the international contest, because, as Debbie said, I've seen many people not selected, but being then commissioned by one of the jurors. And again, when you have the list of finalists, all the publishers to go have a look to see if they're, some ego.
Thanks. And just one more question. For looking for an agent, what are good ways? I'm really new in this, and I started to just chat GTP it, but I don't know really good ways or lists online or to find agents specifically for what you're.
What kind of illustrations do you do?
I'm going from fine arts. I do a lot of birds and botanical. It's not exactly scientific illustration, and so I don't really know, and I don't quite know what.
I think first you have to figure out exactly what you want to do, and then you have to, and then once you have that clear in your mind, then there's many ways to find lists and hundreds of agencies. And again, I think it's a job, and you have to go and look at every single agent and really see what fits with you. That's where I would start. Yeah. Since I just do children's picture books, what I tell most illustrators who do children's, I say, look at the Bologna Book Fair website, because all of the children's book agents in the world are there, and so you already have your list, and there you can just start. But in your case, I'm sure you can find a list, and then I would look and again really see, really find out who these agents are, try to hear their voice, try to find interviews with them, podcasts, and see if they resonate with you, and see if their artists resonate with your art. Because you don't want something that's too far or something too close. So it really is a lot of work.
Just the general advice, have a look at the numbers. If the agency, they have 100 artists and you find out that there are only 2 people working in, it's a scam. And it happen. It's quite often. It happened quite often.
Thanks.
I can't remember exactly the title, but I think is it the Authors and Illustrators Yearbook? That's a good source, which is was certainly published in England. I mean, in the English language, but that's a pretty good source for agents.
Authors of Illustrators.
Yeah, it's a yearbook of some sort, and it's full of information, and I think quite a lot of agents. To be honest, I try to avoid agents. I mean, I probably shouldn't be saying. No, we work with lots of agents as well. But I personally love working directly with illustrators. But it's meant to be a very good yearbook. I've never used it specifically myself, but I've heard it's very good, and it's full of great people. So yeah, worth checking out.
I do use agents. I mean, sometimes it's helpful. Like we need to solve a problem, and we ask the agent do you have somebody that you think would fit into this situation? And that's a big help. And then, of course, sometimes it's good to have the contact directly with the illustrator. Sometimes it happens, sometimes not, depending on the agent. But yeah, you're solving problems.
I'd like to address Jonathan's, what he just said about when an artist I represent is commissioned by a book, they work directly with the publisher. They don't work with me. I troubleshoot. But if there's anything, but it's a direct contact. So this is, no, it's true. For example, Chris Houghton, I represent Chris Houghton, works directly with his editor and designers. So the agent's there to kind of support. And then when I work on a project. If I work, for example, if I sell the rights in each country, in that case, there might be less contact. But just one more thing to answer your question. Look at other illustrators who you like, who do something similar, and see who their agents are. And talk to them, yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's down to the illustrator as much as anything else. I think a lot of illustrators, they're best suited to have an agent. They hate working directly with, or the only way they'll get work. And some illustrators like working directly with publishers. And so, yeah.
Si no hi ha cap pregunta més, una última, the last one.
A good one for ending, I think. How do you see the market of books? Because here, the market, the future of books, yes, international future of books. Because yeah, here everybody's crying like nobody reads and we don't have a future. And so I think, yeah.
I think it's great.
English.
I think it's there are so many. I think the quality of books is terrifying. It's brilliant. There are so many wonderful books out there, and I think for us, it's about using. I said this in my presentation earlier, but we use a lot of nice papers, nice cover finishes. So it's kind of it's making them as precious as possible, like a lovely thing to have as an object as much as a book, and that's that. I think that's what you have to have in to make books as special as they are. To have to use lovely, to have them as a product, as a special product.
Well, I think publishers. I am only an art director, so I don't know so much about the market, I would say. But I agree with what you were saying about the object, and we talked about it this morning also. When we design books, we still design thinking about the object, about the paper, and about the what it has to look like, not just as a thumbnail. But yeah, I don't want to be pessimistic, but we publish too many books, I think. I mean, we first, and not all of them are high quality, but it's also we publish everything. We publish very high quality and very very commercial books. But as I was telling them sometime, we are able to publish very high literature because the commercial part works well. So, but I think we publish too many books, and it's true people are reading less. I don't know how it's in Spain. In Italy, people don't read so much. And time is limited, and much of our time is taken by social media and very fast and easy communication. Books need more time.
Yeah. So the figures are going down.
At the moment, yes. In Italy, figures are going down. I don't know.
Also globally in the English language.
Business is very tough. It's really tough. Definitely. I think I suppose when it's the quality of books is fantastic. You go into a bookshop and there's so many beautiful books, and that's a wonderful thing. In terms of actually the everything that is going on in the world, printing books is obviously just getting more and more expensive, and that's obviously very difficult. So yeah, business is really difficult. people have not got as much money, so they're less willing to spend money on books, which is completely understandable. No, it's tough, really tough. Yeah.
I have a bit of a different point of view in the sense. No, I have a different point of view. No, I'm very optimistic because I think literature is what will save us. I think books will save us. And I founded my agency in 2011. That was the year that the New York Times said that print was dead. It was all ebooks, and I was going against the grain. And my husband was like, "Oh my God, a year, and then this is not going to work." He's super pessimistic, and so I don't think. And as Jonathan said, it is a tough market. I try not. I try to be realistic, but I try not to get too involved. If I started looking at figures and statistics when I started, I would have never started. And so I just try to find new markets, to find new ways. Children's books has been growing. Children's book is probably one of the few sectors that continues to grow, and we have kind of a built-in audience because there'll always be children, at least we hope. But of course, we have to be realistic. But personally, on a personal level, my company has grown. I haven't yet seen. I've just grown, and I'm sure there'll be a year that'll go down, and that's okay. But for now, I continue to grow, and I think I do that because I'm continually looking for new markets, and new markets do open up. So that's my optimistic point of view.
Some more optimism. I think that there will be tough times. There will always be, but I put the books as a design product together with the spoon, the wheel, the knife. There was no way to change it. They were born perfect, like the wheel. So I'm not pessimistic, okay?
Okay, thank you very much for share with us your opinion, your expertise, and your point of view. It's very interesting for us. Thank you. Moltes gràcies per venir. Desitjo que us hagi interessat i fins aviat. Que vagi bé. Adéu-siau.